Matthew Cassell, independent journalist, working in this case for The Guardian, went to Israel to see how Israelis feel about what the experts in The Guardian call a genocide, what is Israel's essentially half-ass attempt to defend itself from annihilation. Welcome to the reality show. I'm Razi Ginsburg. I'm joined by Reichel and Daniel Kraus. We're going to go straight into the video. We're going to try to go through the whole thing and pause it when we have something to say, which will be often. Let's do it. Of course, we can point out the obvious, which is he is repeating Hamas numbers and not even doing the according to the Gaza Health Ministry, which is run by Hamas, thing that some journalists do sometimes. And of course, saying that the death toll could be higher. But even before that, you see people living life, having fun, and you hear this somber music in the background, and he's talking about what's going on in Gaza. And even when the Israelis are talking, the music is still there in the background. They're talking about they're talking in a positive way about the Israeli Defense Forces, which people don't do. This is not a thing you hear in England. The Israeli Defense Forces are evil. What you hear in England is death to the IDF. That's mainstream. The idea that the IDF can be praised is completely unacceptable. Yeah.
So I want to frame here what he's actually doing, and I want you, the viewers, to actually follow this claim around the video and see how he just repeats over and over again his strategy in this video. So basically, what he's trying to do is to make people forget about justice. And what is justice? Justice means you get what you deserve based on your actions, your character, your ideology, your view, etc., etc. You hold a worldview, you act upon it, and whether then you do good or bad, and then you get what you deserve. That's justice. Now, this gentleman, whether that's his view or justice or whatever, he has a completely different view. He says this conflict is basically a competition. Who suffers the most? And since the Palestinians are suffering and the Israelis are having such a better time, the Israelis are evil and the Palestinians are good. There is zero talk about anything related to justice. The only thing kind of hints it is was the adult lady at the beach mentioning October 7th. And this was also was framed as a part of this competition. And then they go and mention it, evading so much of the details of October 7th, say, oh, yeah, there was October 7th attack. You know, Hamas, bad boys, they did a little bit of trouble there. Not so much. Not so much people died, according to The Guardian, not enough, I guess. And then Israel responds, led to so much people dying, so Israel is in the wrong here. Well, this is a very horrible way to frame what's going on here. I'm sure the viewers understand why. And the article does such an evil job framing it in that way. And they keep on enforcing this idea in like subtle, implicit claims, like the nature of the questions they ask and the subjects they choose to talk on. It's all about, oh, the Gazans are suffering, but you're not suffering enough. You're evil for that. And that's such a horrible way to look at things. You know, the best example is World War II. Like, think about the suffering of Germany versus the suffering of Britain. You know, Britain lost a lot of soldiers, you know, Air Force, they sent people to fight. But the Germans, they were having such a horrible time. Dresden was completely ruined. Which British cities were ruined? So think about an article from The Guardian going to London in 1944 and telling people, oh, you know, you guys having a good time here in London, you have shelter, you have the subway. Meanwhile, the people in Germany are being bombarded. Don't you, like, what do you do? How would you, you know, it's done in your name. What would you do about it? So it's just completely crazy and insane, especially since the nature and ideology and actions of the Palestinian ideological political movement, which is the Palestinian movement, which is basically devoted. It's like people are sacrificing their own life for one cause, and that is the destruction of Israel, of ridding the Middle East, and then later the war of Jews, and later of non-Muslims and infidels or whatever.
Daniel.
Yeah, there is this weird obsession or focus on who is suffering more, and you can apply it anywhere else. I don't know what people expect from when it comes to a war. If people expect that, okay, now there is a war, so everybody will be like shut down in their shelter, there will be no life. No, you still need to go out and produce. I think, unfortunately, my prime minister of Slovakia said something similar about Ukraine. That what in Kiev they are leading a normal life. Yeah, because they need to still produce in order to fight against dictatorship. In Tel Aviv, in Israel, people still need to live their lives. So the IDF, so the army has the necessary capacity to actually defend them. I do not because Israelis are not like Palestinians who are only being able to sustain themselves because of outside help. Israelis are producing themselves. So yeah, absolutely. This when Yar mentioned World War II, my favorite example of that is well, kind of example. If people watched Narnia of Red, that takes a place during World War II, and one of the scenes from the movie is at the start. They go to basically rural sites to basically escape the bombardments from Nazi Germany that were happening during that time, the bombing of London. Would he say the same thing to people living in the rural sites? Like, oh, you're living here a good life instead of what? Should they be what should they be like guilty that they are not getting bombed? Are the Israelis only virtuous when a Houthi attack is happening or when the Iranian attack is coming? Is that the only time where Israelis are actually virtuous in by this weird definition? Uh, Something I also wanted to mention earlier, because some people, of course, talk Hebrew during this, so I think we should always mention what they say for people on the podcast. So one Hebrew guy was asked about it, and he was talking about how Israelis are united. We stand behind the IDF. We do not care what the world is thinking. That's essentially what he said. And of course, the interviewer, had to mention that the rights group are now saying there is a genocide, and he will be going to one of those rights groups. So we might comment on it once that happens.
Yeah, I was gonna say, one of the things that both of the Israelis we heard talk so far and many of the others I found really impressive, including people who are ideologically way off, I think. Uh, but it could be just by, being next to this guy that anybody would look impressive. But yeah, let's watch some more and you can decide for yourselves. Okay, first of all, just for context, and I know longtime viewers, or at least people who have been watching over the past couple of years, know that we've talked multiple times about B'Tselem. We've done episodes about them. I think this speaks for itself. But yeah, there are very few humans on the planet who I find as despicable and nauseating as the people involved in B'Tselem. These are comparing them to the capos is unfair to capos who had a gun to their head when they sold out other Jews. These people do it fully, willingly, and yeah, you heard it from her, and unfortunately, you'll hear it from her a bit more. But yeah.
Yeah, so a couple of things. I'd like to start with the claim that she's making, which it's done in my name. Now, this is actually right. Like, she has a point here. It's done in her name. What he doesn't understand is what is being done is a good thing, is an act of self-defense, an act of justice against an enemy. But this argument, which she acknowledges that for more of a collective reason, like she's Jewish and Jews are doing it, but I'm looking at more of a political, an individual who's part of a society, a political system, and he bears responsibility to things done in his name. And that is right. And this argument is exactly the argument that justifies any collateral damage in Gaza, because the people in Gaza hold a political responsibility for what's going on there. and to the attacks done on their behalf. And they have the responsibility to eliminate this regime from within way before October 7th attacks, primarily because it's a tyrannical regime that oppresses its own people. So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing, I want to mention a lady named Vivian Silver. Vivian Silver was murdered on October 7th. She lived quite nearby Gaza. If I'm not wrong, she was beheaded, but I'm not sure about the details. I think she was beheaded. Her house was burned to the ground. She was missing. She was murdered by Hamas. And she was a board member of B'Tselem. Afterwards, she left the organization, I think, in 2014, started another organization called Women Makes Peace. She was one of the most hardcore Israeli peace activists, devoted her life supporting the Palestinians. Of course, Palestinians could care less. Very proud of her. They are very proud of her being murdered. And in November 14th, 2023, when it was the news came out that she was murdered and I think beheaded, B'Tselem has made a post in Hebrew and they say, we are grieving for Vivian Silver, who was killed. They couldn't even respect her enough to state that she was murdered. They use the word killed. And this, for me, it demonstrates the evil of those organizations, the evasion and rationalization they do to justify their evil. And I'd like to use this opportunity and read a paragraph from Gal's speech. And I remember reading this. I read it also after October 7th, and it hits me completely different. And it's this paragraph, I can relate it to Palestineism and to whomever supports this movement, including those leftist organizations. So I'm going to read it now. They do not want to own your fortune. They want you to lose it. They do not want to succeed. They want you to fail. They do not want to live. They want you to die. They desire nothing. They hate existence, and they keep running, each trying not to learn that the object of his hatred is himself. They are the essence of evil. They, those anti-living objects who seek, by devouring the world, to fill the selfless zero of their soul. It is not your wealth thereafter. Theirs is a conspiracy against the mind, which means against life and men.
Well, I was gonna say this before you read anything by Rand. Now I'm, it's not the same level, but since you did mention Vivian Silver, I will encourage people to read my article, The Tragic Legacy of Vivian Silver, on the Ayn Rand Center UK's Substack. It is also in the chat. Daniel.
So, as we've said, B'Tselem released this new report called Our Genocide. I found it interesting how people who saw the image, how genocide, the word is spread out so much that a part of G is being cut out because they really have to make it a big font so you get it, so not even the whole word actually fits into it. I didn't read the whole thing. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's about 80 pages, and as you would expect, it's mostly a BS. But even if you go to it, parts of it, when they talk about genocide, the way they define genocide is, of course, they do not go by the international law standard because that's kind of hard to prove, as we've seen. So we sort of like pick out the standard we would like. Then, of course, the way Guardian uses it, I mean, again, look at the framing, right? Look at Jews having fun at the beaches, Now let's switch to a building getting bombed with no context. We don't know why the building is getting bombed. We don't know if anybody is in that building. We have no idea where this is even taking place, but Jews at the beaches, supposedly Palestinians getting bombed. This is all you need. And then, so we have that. And afterwards, well, yeah, so the Guardian is basically saying, okay, we agree that most Jews are basically evil, but let's look at this one group, actually the good Jews, the people who are sounding the alarm, right? Who are speaking out. So this is the way B'Tselem has been used always. Even Israeli human rights group say there is a genocide in Gaza. The people who work there are absolutely working on the destruction of the Israeli state. Even when I skimmed their report, they had a section called Foundation of the Regime, the Israeli Apartheid Regime, and they start in 1948. So from day one for them, this was an apartheid regime. So you cannot there is nothing redeeming about this organization at all. They are absolutely, they will be happy when the Israelis, well, they will not be happy when the Israeli state is gone, because they will most likely go with them. Something people should learn is when you I think the quote I've heard is everybody likes a treason, nobody likes a traitor. So yeah, the Islamists very much appreciate B'Tselem, but they do not appreciate or will not appreciate the people in B'Tselem afterwards.
Yeah, by the way, it would be less dishonest, let's say, of them when they show a video of a building being bombed to mention that no Palestinians were harmed in the making of that video because they were all told to get out. Now, that's not, I don't think that's the right thing to do, to tell them to get out, but it might be the right thing to do to point out in that video. Then again, if they were honest, this is not the kind of video they would be making, this guy to begin with. Yeah, and it is noteworthy that when this woman from B'Tselem is talking, she does do what pro-Palestinian Jews do, which is mention the "as a Jew" part, because you know they like to point that out. All right, let's keep watching. This guy is, in this case, lying in such a flat out way, completely unashamed of that lie. We see from Gazans that there's food, and like we see that they keep telling us, look at the images of children. Why not look at the images of food? Why are you lying? I mean, we know why, but seriously, what a piece of shit. Yeah,
Uh,
I had to
I,
pause
I'd
it
like
there.
to address the question in the super chat. Do you want to read it?
Yeah, let's read it. So Akira, thank you for being a member for 16 months. Akira says, we know Palestinianism is driven by nihilism, but what drives the self-hating Jews in Israel or the West? They get to see evil and yet choose to evade.
Yeah, so there is a lot of self-hating here. There is a lot of what I mentioned in Gal's speech. And I think it's people that really accepted the moral terms of like you and as a collective should not ever do anything bad. Do not make somebody from a different collective suffer. And this is like an inversion of what Jews has been through the Holocaust. So the Jews has been persecuted as basically as a collective. They've been, the Nazis and Europeans tried to completely annihilate the Jews, and a lot of Jews learned the wrong lesson from the Holocaust instead of learning the right lesson, which is you have a moral obligation. If you want to live, you have a moral obligation to identify evil and destroy evil. You got to fight evil to live as good. And the lesson they've learned is do not ever make people suffer. Do not ever do things that are not nice to people in other collectives, like cruel things has been done to us. So once again, this premise takes away the whole point of justice, of good being rewarded and bad being fought at. And I'd like to give you an example for this. It's mostly a self-hating thing with zero. There is zero regard, not for Jews and not for Palestinians as well. And I want to give you this example. So there is an organization in Israel called Physicians for Human Rights, and they hold their own premises, but I'm just gonna go with it for the sake of argument, just to show their hypocrisy and evil. So they have appealed to Israeli Supreme Court against Israel supposedly forcing a hospital in Gaza City to evacuate. Now, they basically are saying, forcing a hospital to evacuate is a war crime, is illegal, and the Israeli Supreme Court should order the army to stop. Now, my claim is they don't really care about the people in the hospital. They just want to make it harder for Israelis to fight, to defend themselves. They want to see more soldiers dying. And if there is this hospital that Israel cannot take over the hospital to protect itself from it being used as a basically terrorist hub, it's good for them. It's good for a physician for human rights. There are many other cases where they've done similar thing. Now, what is my evidence for this claim? Well, the IDF has responded to court. First of all, the court should have thrown this claim, but they didn't. The IDF has responded to court, asking them, what's going on? And they said, listen, we didn't ask for this hospital to be evacuated. We didn't order an evacuation of this hospital. They can do whatever the hell they want in this hospital. The thing is, the people of the hospital asked us to help them evacuate south. Now, the crazy thing here is that basically the Physicians for Human Rights, under their own premises, did a thing that's worse than whatever the IDF is doing, because they have exposed the people in the hospital to Hamas. They have snitched on by their action, by virtue of what they did. They have snitched on the people in the hospital to Hamas that have asked the IDF help going south. By the terms of Hamas, this is death penalty to the people of the hospital. They've now created like a fight between the people in the hospital and Hamas, basically sacrificing them. For what cause? For the cause of hurting Israel. Now, when you look over the appeal to the court they made, there is zero evidence for the IDF making any statement order for evacuation. They didn't show anything. They basically appealed against an action without caring whether it's even true, without caring for the people in the hospital. The court was wrong as well. It should have thrown this appeal away because there is no evidence. But the court is also leaning left in Israel, and by forcing the IDF to respond, they basically screwed over the people in the hospital. But they just don't care. It's not like, oh, they really care about the people there. They want them to be safe. Or no, they are sacrificing them so they could self-sacrifice more efficiently. They want to destroy Israel from within, and they don't mind destroying the people they're supposedly protecting, because these people are just pawns in their effort to destroy Israel for nihilistic reason, for self-hatred, for willing to self-sacrifice. And this is just pure evil. This is evil in so many levels, especially since those people evade and rationalize whatever happened in October 7th. It's complete. It's evil on levels it's very hard to see. You don't see this evil so often in such grotesque and explicit way. It's usually better hidden. So this is a really striking example.
Yeah, Bonnie says or asks, what makes B'Tselem unable to say that these people, the Palestinians, are killers? Is this why the war has gone on for 2 years? So, first of all, officially B'Tselem is, I don't remember the exact slogan or tagline, but something like the Israeli Organization for Human Rights in the Occupied Territories, which is, a way to get themselves out of ever condemning the Palestinians and only condemning Israel. The reason the war has gone on for 2 years is because, the Israeli government accepts, not fully, but in some way, the principles that B'Tselem holds. Just B'Tselem holds them, luckily for Israel and for Israelis, more consistently than the people at the very top. But yeah, the only reason the war has been going on for 2 years is because Israel refuses to identify the enemy as the Palestinians, insists it's Hamas, and acts accordingly, and treats Palestinians as if they were innocent. Somebody in the chat also says, I'm in Tel Aviv right now. Last week for Shabbat, there was a candlelight vigil on the beach for the children who have died in Gaza during the war. I'm gonna assume that this was had the wrong motivation. Children are always innocent, and the children in Gaza are just as innocent as the children in Israel when they are actually children, not when they're 17-year-olds with guns trying to kill Jews. But yeah, look, bottom line is, of course, as you hear on this channel all the time, the children everywhere are basically live the lives that their parents choose for them. They don't actually choose where and how they live. And the parents of the children in Gaza chose to put them in, to bring kids into the world, into a war zone where they are supportive of that war. So those children are the victims of the same people that Jews in Israel are the victims of. And if, again, Israel acknowledged that, then this war would be over. Daniel.
Not much to add right now. I'll just say the Hebrew person who was speaking, he said that basically there's less work coming in. What was his? That basically that there's less tourism. The war in Gaza is hurting us. And okay, what else? The interviewer has said something like there are no markets in Gaza. I mean, again, when somebody says something like that, what do they think is going on in Gaza? Nobody, there is not a single trade happening. There is not a single place where Palestinians are coming in and buying things, oftentimes buying it from Hamas, or not as much as anymore, but used to be that they bought things from Hamas that Hamas has stolen, the aid specifically. So, again, like what? This is not even because he is supposedly a journalist, right? So he knows to some extent what is the reality, or at least we know, even if we don't know exactly the day-to-day life of Gaza, we know other war zones, we know the other places where something like this was happening and the way it has worked there. So again, saying there are no markets in Gaza is simply ridiculous. I mean, I'll just
Daniel.
mention, yeah.
Oh no, after you finish, I want to add something.
Sure. I'll just mention on the earlier we talked about this sort of like self-hating Jews, and something to point out, while there is something like that, it's not unique for people to actively go against their interests, right? It's not, it's people are not, or rationality is not an automatic thing. Knowing or even valuing life itself is not an automatic thing. It requires a certain philosophy. It requires a certain even look at life or view of life, like people at B'Tselem clearly do not have. They actively wish for their own destruction, as many people unfortunately do. Once people stop doing that, no matter how evil Hamas is, will no longer be a problem. Again, this war and these kinds of wars are never about, or same way yesterday we talked about, what was her name? Megan Kelly? Uh, that's her name, right? Yeah. Raz is nodding his head. Yesterday we talked about her, and somebody was saying she's not as evil as Candace Owens. But the thing is, the society or the world doesn't get destroyed because evil people get power. It's when relatively decent people or people who were decent basically start defending them and start doubting their goodness for the sake of irrationality. That's what the problem is. The problem is not Hamas. The problem is Israelis who do not want to destroy Hamas, and the world who want to shut down Israel when it comes to defending itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to add on Razi's point on children, and I want to make a concretization. Okay, I want to give you an example, not in war, in regular civil life. Let's say a man armed with an assault rifle enters the bank, robs the bank. In the process, he shoots to death, executes like 3 people or whatever, goes out, start driving in his getaway car. The cops are after him. They make him meanwhile, this guy like driving, shooting, managed to hit another cop car that crashed, and maybe the officer died or whatever. The cop cars are chasing him. They manage to make a maneuver on him. They get him in the rear. He flips and rolls over, and turns out that he was, while in his escape vehicle, in the back seat, there was his 3-year-old child. Now he was, in a baby seat and wearing seatbelt and everything. So, the father was very great father, taking care of his children, making sure they're safe. But the kid, unfortunately, was killed. Who has the moral responsibility for the death of the child? The policeman driving the cop car and making the maneuver against the vehicle, or the father that choose to go and rob a bank and execute people and run away in his escape vehicle, shooting people over the place? Who is morally responsible for the death of that child, and why? And in this case, it's obvious it's the father, because if he cares about his child is not about making sure he's well seated in his car. Is about paying respect to others people's life. Because if you go against other people's life, they'll go after your life. And when you are, you're responsible for your children, you are risking them as well. Now, if you are living in Gaza and you support Palestineism, you support directly or indirectly, you give moral sanction to the movement devoted to killing all the Jews, and then they're being forced to protect themselves, and your children die as collateral, it's your fault. You shouldn't have supported Palestineism in the first place. You should have opposed it, say, I do not agree, I do not consent, I do not give moral sanction for that. You should not have elected Hamas or whatever. You should have gone against them. You should have run away. You should have done something. But by staying there and supporting this whole system against Israel that led to actual death of Israel in horrifying cases of death and murder and invasion and rape and massacre, you are responsible for your children. That's all. It's very simple.
Yeah, I mean, if you give that metaphor to Matthew Cassell, the people responsible for the death of that child are the Jews. And by the way, I know this is also going to be the answer of one of our most dedicated troll in the chat. I know this person is annoying, and I'm sure the day will come when they are banned. But you can block them if you don't want to see their crap anymore. I find it somewhat entertaining sometimes, which is one of the reasons. Yeah, when trolls are in the chat, the decision whether or not they get banned is pretty much Razi's wins, unfortunately. So, but let's watch more of Matthew Cassell, who I'm sure would be banned if he was in our chat. He might actually be, despite her numbers that are kind of made up on the spot, but probably not incorrect, at least some of them. Leonard Peikoff famously has a lecture titled "A Picture is Not an Argument." There's at least one video on this channel about that lecture, and you can see that lecture also, I believe, or at least hear it for free online. And Palestinianism around the world is very much relies on pictures being arguments. But even there, and we I don't think we ever did that Gary Lineker episode, which I really wanted to do, where he explains why he's pro-Palestinian. It's basically because of pictures. But the thing is, it's not that a picture is an argument, because even when you see a picture of a child suffering in Gaza, you have to attach, a certain argument to that picture for it to be an argument. And what is attached is blame, not on the people who started the war that resulted in that child being in that situation. It's on the people against whom the war was started, because and the child is in that position again because their parents chose for them to be in that position. And I have to say again, this guy is going around interviewing apparently random Israelis on the street, and they are speaking beautifully. They are doing a great job so far. Of course, the B'Tselem woman being the exception to that rule. Yeah.
Well, it's just like I wish I was there. He's saying like, what do you think about all those people dying and the starvation and everything? We said, listen, there isn't any, but it doesn't matter. Like, who brought this? Who caused this situation? who holds the idea that lead to violence? Like, it just, and I see this character, this reporter is like, I see like how evil his ideas are. For me, he's just an agent against justice. Like I said in the start, and you see example after example after example, it's not about justice. It's not about people getting what they deserve. It's not about one side is in acting in self-defense, and the other side is a crazy nihilist who just wants the death of the West in general. Just like, oh, they suffer more, you should be ashamed of yourself. Like it's so cringe just going to the market, seeing people sell things and like, oh, this is a moral fault. You sell stuff in the market while they starve in Gaza. This is such bullshit. Like it just, I see it, it's really cringe.
Yeah, by the way, you said you wish you were there. I have to tell you, yeah, if had you been interviewed, I have a feeling you wouldn't have made the final cut. And
Of course not, but it doesn't matter. I just want, like, these people are disgusting.
And there was a comment earlier in the chat that I wanted to respond to and didn't. There was a question about what makes an expert. And generally speaking, when somebody is an expert presented as an expert on the news or in a video like this, what makes them an expert is that somebody calls them an expert. It's kind of the leftist woke answer to what is a woman. A woman is somebody who identifies as a woman. An expert is somebody who self-identifies as an expert. Unfortunately, not in real life, but in the way they are typically presented. Daniel.
I mean, these people can be experts in those things, but the problem is with the discipline itself. Such thing as international law, as it is right now, is completely subjective. There is absolutely no objective basis you can find from it. So if somebody calls themselves an expert, I mean, sure, there's like, yeah, if something is completely subjective, there is no way for me to even say what they're saying is not happening. The problem is with the whole discipline itself. Again, when it comes to this interviewer, the way he talked to the guy selling spices, he's like, "Do you? What did he say? Was it like, does it affect you? You know, as a human being, does it affect you that what's happening?" I know what he was in his head. He was saying, "You disgusting monster! Do you even care about the fact that Palestinians are suffering in Gaza?" That was absolutely what he was saying. And the response, again, he was speaking in Hebrew. The response was basically, I do not want to get into this because he understood what exactly this guy is trying to do. Um, then he talked to the two girls. He talked about, do you care? And that was the same way, right? Do you care about the civilian suffering? Do you care about the genocide or what some people, he doesn't even have balls to call it himself. Some people say genocide and famine is happening there. They basically don't. They do not take the bait to large extent. They said, no, we care about the hostages. We care about, and whatever suffering is happening there, that's on Hamas. Take it up with Hamas. Don't talk to us. We didn't start this. We are not prolonging this war. It's Hamas. I mean, where is Israel accepted the ceasefire deal. Where is Hamas on accepting that ceasefire deal? Hamas is rejecting it. And was it BBC or Guardian that is already praising Hamas for rejecting that deal, basically saying, "Oh yeah, it's unfair to Hamas." So I think it was BBC. It's unfair to Hamas. So of course they would not accept it. So no, absolutely, this guy I mean, is evil, and you can see it. People who are listening on the podcast, people should really watch the video and watch his face. Watch the his weird smile when he talks to the Israelis.
All right. Should we watch some more?
Sure.
Sure.
Pause before we see this I would say anti-Israel protest, but we'll talk about it after we see it. I want to say about that 19-year-old, although I obviously disagree with what he says about children, and if they grow up to be terrorists, it doesn't matter when they're children. That doesn't justify killing them, and of course nobody is trying to kill them. But again, this 19-year-old speaks with more sense than most so-called experts. Most of the people you will hear talking about the situation, 19-year-old with like broken English. So yeah, again, it's an example of this journalist. I'm sure he thinks he did a great job, but he is, I think, presenting Israel in a very positive light as good people will see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add what the women was saying for the people listening and not watching the video with the subtitles. She was saying basically, why do you even bother talking to them? It doesn't matter what you say, what you do. They'll show whatever they want to show and create like a false narrative against us. And I just want to say, it's very relatable hearing that. That's all.
Daniel.
Yeah, I guess not much to add. Yeah, she said, "What's the point of these interviews? They basically, they just show what they want." When the guy was asked about it, yeah, he was saying that he will go to IDF in November. And yeah, I mean, it's positive. It's good to see that at least some people have the clarity of what is really happening there. Again, I don't know. I mean, again, we heard a couple sentences from this guy in his non-native language. He might have not meant that, like, literally, that he would go and kill children or something like that. It might mean just, there is a certain amount of collective responsibility all Palestinians have. They've participated in October 7th. They are celebrating it. They do not actively stand up to it. He might not have maybe even the philosophy to properly say it, but it's absolutely right. It's Palestinians who are at fault. It's Palestinians who have to be blamed. It's Palestinians who need to have pressure put on them to do something about it. It's not on Israel to change. So Israelis and Palestinians can live in peace. It's for Palestinians to basically give up on their Palestinianism if they do wish to actually live in civilized world. If they do actually wish to live in more peaceful times. So again, if people want to see peace in the Middle East, put pressure on Palestinians, put pressure on Hamas, not on Israel.
All right, I should probably have asked you guys this off the air, but we are coming towards the end of the show. Are you okay with continuing a bit beyond the scheduled time?
I don't mind.
All right, then I will also reply to this point that was made in the chat. Somebody said only Palestinian defectors are innocent. Look, Palestinian defectors, or let's say, the people, Palestinians who collaborate with Israel, we need to remember. I mean, sure, Israel, needs that kind of intelligence, so it offers them whatever offers and gives them that. Um, but they're not all, like the son of Hamas, who for ideological reasons had to fight against this. Mostly they are terrorists. They are terrorists who maybe actually think it's wrong and maybe just, one night in the cold and rain and they're tired in the trenches and they're risking their life and they're thinking, maybe if I just sell out this guy next to me, I could have been sitting in a nice apartment in Hulon, in my jams, being all comfy wumpy or cozy wozy with a hot cup of cocoa, binge watching Fauda on Netflix. And they choose that. Like, there even the truest of believers are actually humans who, understand certain things about reality and might um, go a different way when offered an opportunity. But yeah, let's not pretend that everybody who helps Israel among Palestinians is actually a good person, because often they are not.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can just quickly make this point. Even when people talk about the innocence of children, in some ways it's redundant. You cannot really ascribe goodness or evil to people who do not have moral agency. If we are talking about like 40-year-old babies, they do not have any moral agency. They do not have any way of basically committing to a choice or making some volitional choice that would make them either good or bad. So they are, in a sense, innocent by default. It's only once you start making, once you start developing agency, once you start developing ability to make decisions, that's when the moral blame starts coming. So that's why Palestinians who are deciding when they start growing up to participate in the Palestinian society as it is right now, to not make any changes to it, to not stand up to Hamas, to not change something. And yeah, when you said sort of about them, let's say people from Palestinian side betraying them and coming to it, yeah, it doesn't absolve. It might in some ways absolve them of their crimes that you've done. You've done basically more goodness for the Israeli state or Israeli defense than bad things. But yeah, if that was a person, I don't know how IDF does like or Mossad does this, basically like how they convert people or how basically how evil, like if there is any point where you're too evil to basically be turned to the other side. But it should be absolutely simply used by the Israeli state for the benefit of Israelis, not in a sense of now we need to provide Palestinians ability to basically redeem themselves.
And let me quickly say, somebody in the chat when I just spoke said, Razi explaining how he sold his soul to the Zionists. First of all, no offer has been made. People, Zionists, if you want to support our work, you can do so via Super Chat or by becoming a member of the Ayn Rand Center UK and getting access to a bunch of other perks. By the way, Palestinians, anti-Semites watching this show, you can also send super chats. We will probably not read your comment, but we will happily take your money. And as you would probably say, I assume you're all leftists or at least big government people, as you would say about taxation, we will spend that money better than you will. Yal, anything to say before we watch more of the video?
I'm sure the trolls agree that we as Jews love money. So good argument here.
Yes, well, not only Jews love money, but yeah, I also, since you read some of a bit of Atlas Shrugged, I recommend people read the money speech in Atlas Shrugged, but also just read the whole book after the show. Daniel?
Do you want to play? Okay, just quickly, I do want to make a comment about this one for people on the podcast. It's like a protest, and there is a guy sitting or lying on the floor, sort of like that. And I think that's a really good analogy for Palestinians who also fake put blood on themselves and then go on the street, or they take pictures or make video, and we can see they are breathing. So I just wanted to make that comment. Anything you guys want to add, or should we continue?
No, we can continue. Yeah, it's interesting to see leftists talk sense, but even when they talk sense, there's you see the underlying nonsense of their way of thinking. Yeah, this whole anti-war thing. These protesters, just like pro-Palestinian protesters in the West, uh, the pro-Palestinian side loves to use words as that which they do not mean, or the exact opposite of what they mean. If you are pro-Palestinian, you are pro-war. If you are in Israel right now demonstrating for a ceasefire, you are pro-war. What you are pro is a war where Israel doesn't win, and oddly enough, they see what Israel is doing now as winning, which is a bit of a stretch. But yeah, the pro-Palestinian side is pro-war. Palestinians have been clear about it all along. All they want is war until there are no more Jews left to kill. And if you think once they're done with the Jews, they're done, you are delusional and not listening to what they and their supporters in the West are saying. Yeah.
Well, I want to say about the lady in red. So based on the fact that she is taking part in this protest, I must probably not agree with her on many things, but just want to say hats off to whatever she said. She was very based. and she was telling the truth. So that's really worthy of appreciating. The guy after her was very apologetic, and his argument was like so weird. Like, of course, Israelis would care more about themselves rather than people who are not them. Like, it's not the issue. Like like these people, it's not like they're different, so I don't care about them. They attacked me. They try to kill me. That is the proper context. Like, it's not like there is. Yeah, I don't know. Like, the framing of it is like, like you protest against the war, and like, I don't know, mention people starving in Africa or something, and like, oh, the other people. Like, it's so weird.
Daniel.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this guy knows Ketty Newman, because the way he was. So you're saying you are anti-war, right? He's like, oh, finally, I had to spend whole day with these people defending the war. Now I can finally spend some time with leftists. I'm sure they're gonna be completely behind me and call for their destruction. And then he gets.
No, but by the way, I'm convinced he's seen many people who are anti-war, like per excellence. Like, his narrative is like, oh, Israelis are not actually anti-war, and then blah blah blah. And there's this minority of leftist organization, and like, you can see in the demonstration, you can see the displays, you can see there was like the activists from the Pink Front, and there are basically people there who are actually like anti-Israeli, anti-war, and would love saying this to reporter. I'm sure he found many of people like saying like the war thing ever that are like good for him, but that's exactly the opposite of his narrative. You want to display, oh, look at those evil Israelis, only care about their hostages and live in life, and they want to live and they want to have fun, even though there is people suffering in Gaza, while completely ignoring the reason for the suffering in Gaza.
Yeah, there's a literal genocide going on right now, which is now my favorite way of basically defending any action. I'm not sure if you guys are big fans of Hassan Piker, but he uses that a lot whenever he gets any criticism. Should we watch more?
Huge fan. I just want to say, El Rito says, it's suicidal to be leftist in Israel. It's so idiotic. It's suicidal to be leftist anywhere. In Israel, it's just, the results of the suicide. You get there quicker. Yeah, let's watch some.
Yeah, I guess since we are talking about the leftists, for the again people who like big government, if you super chat to us, not only it does get taxed when you do super chat, and then when we spend it, it gets taxed again. So you can actually help stimulate a lot of the economy.
Support the welfare state by super chatting.
The NHS.
What a coward!
Look. I know this guy is a journalist because it says so in his Twitter bio, but he is also an actor. I mean, this whole, oh my God, they're looking me up. Come on, dude. People are talking to you, and some people might not want to talk to you knowing that you are going to do what you ended up actually doing. Yeah.
No, I think it tells a lot about him. Like, the way he reacts to possible moral condemnation shows how he thinks of other people. Like, he's like, oh, I'm getting into them. I'm giving them my moral condemnation of them being cruel to the people in Gaza. Like, it's the thing that strikes me is like how he has zero connection to reality. Like, it's all about the presumed impression. Like, oh no, they're having a bad impression on me. I gotta run away. And the way he's portraying like the assessment of whatever is going on in Gaza. It's all about impressions. It's all about feelings. It's all about people reacting to images. And so many people are feeling that way. So you must be in the wrong. Like, it's such a backwards way of thinking. Like, he has such a poor epistemology. Even his poor attempts to create like this twisted narrative in his article is just so pathetic.
And yeah, I do want to follow up because the guy, I'm famous Israeli TikToker. I don't actually know the guy. I left 17 years ago and I'm not on TikTok, but do you want to tell us, do you know who the guy is?
No, but I quoted him in the comments. He says, he asked him, how's Tel Aviv? He says it's sexy, cute, funny, and stupid. So that was the funniest part of the article. I like how they put it in to show like to demonstrate how people here are like having stupid fun while people in Gaza are suffering. It was to the point.
While there
Yeah.
is a literal genocide going on, right?
Yeah.
Again,
So
this whole
maybe listen. Maybe he's sad that the situation in Gaza is not as described. So it's not sexy. It's not fun. It is stupid though. A lot of stupidity there supporting Palestinism. So you see, there is some balance between both sides.
Yeah, the situation in Gaza, and this is not a race thing, is never sexy. Okay, the beaches that you saw at the beginning of this, the beaches in Gaza don't look like that, and they didn't look like that before October 7th, but you know, it didn't start on October 7th, and they're all victims, so maybe that's why. Daniel?
Yeah, I'm wondering what street he was on because it looked like the place I was in Tel Aviv, or at least I think it was me and Razi when we went through similar sort of like nightlife.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it looked like the street where Google told me I could drive, but actually it was pedestrianized.
all right, that was fun because I didn't have to drive, right? But yeah, I mean, nothing much to add. Yeah, the way it's
You see,
goddamn lit.
Palestinians will still drive there.
Yeah, that's why you need to have those things in Jerusalem on the side of the road. Um, Something I wanted to. Hey, yeah, I mean the way. They're looking me up. I mean, you said them your name. How are they? What are they looking up? The Guardian white guy. Like the only way they can look you up is probably you've told them your name. So why are you now coming? Like you wanted this reaction. You wanted them to be like, oh. And again, if they can just look you up and immediately know you're basically pro-Palestinian, as she said, maybe you have a certain bias that is can be very quickly seen.
No, it's funny how like she tells people like, watch out, he's an asshole, and he's like, oh no, they're gonna gang up on me.
Yeah, and the guy is like, "Oh, okay, maybe he is. We'll still
Yeah.
talk and we'll see." We have about 2 minutes left.
All right, let's soldier on. I want to make on that. So first of all, after he talks to the soldier in the club, he says, "This is all making me very uneasy." And he's talking about, not specifically what the soldier said, but the fact that people are out in a nightclub, in cafes. That's what's making him uneasy. And this goes back to the whole point of this is what Palestinianism is about. It isn't about whatever is going on in Gaza. It isn't about whether people there live or not. It is about Jews living. That is what they have been against from the start. And that is what there's less and less pretense of that being the issue. I don't know if Matthew Cassell saw this and thought, people might look at this and think, okay, yeah, what bothers him is this compared to Gaza. No, what bothers him is this period. It's the Jews living. And look, we talked about it on the Daily Objective earlier. This kind of video has a goal, and the goal was achieved today in Manchester. That's all there is to it.
I want to add on the leftist activist at the end. Like at first he says, it's not only Israel's fault. And then I was like, oh my God, is she gonna actually address the responsibility of like the Palestinians, Palestinism, maybe Hamas? And she's like, no, first place, Israel's fault. Second place, the international community for not joining the Palestinians enough and waging war against Israel. So it would completely cease to exist. That's basically the implications of what she says. She probably like would say, oh no, I mean like sanctions or whatever, but that's basically what she says. Like how could the international community see me self-sacrificing and not help me enough to completely destroy the place I live in? And it just shows how crazy the ideology she holds is.
Yeah, Daniel.
Man, What a cock block. Imagine if you are at a club and you're talking to somebody and this guy comes to you and he's like, what do you think about the suffering in Gaza? Dude, let me just, like this guy, a hero, an IDF soldier, came from third duty, wants to have some fun time, and this guy comes to him, hey, what do you think about, like he wanted to call him child killer. I know that.
Yeah,
But he
and
just, yeah.
when the reporter was talking with the IDF soldier, his eyes went like he had a shine in his eyes because he was like so happy having the opportunity to actually talk to somebody at Gaza on camera and having the opportunity to smear him and you know to put him in bad light. Like and I think that the implicit message of him being sad of soldiers in the club is the fact that soldiers, Israeli soldiers, are welcomed in clubs. It's like for him, you know, IDF. I think the report, like one of the guy who holds the views of like, you know, death to the IDF and stuff. He wouldn't say it, but that's basically like his ideology. So for him, an IDF soldier, he looks at it as an IDF soldier like a Nazi would look at a Jew. So he's been sad about IDF soldiers going to nightclub. He's like a Nazi, you know, a German with a member of the Nazi party, like being shocked that Jews are going into nightclub in 1932. So for me, this is how I see.
There was a super chat that I missed. Thank you, Amir Cricket, for the super chat. Says, love you guys, good minds. Thank you. Yeah, you know, there's a lot of things that you will never hear anywhere else that you hear on this channel, but I think this was the first time the expression cock block has been used. Congratulations, Daniel. Also, I think you're wrong. This guy can now say, look, I was on TV, and that's gonna help him with the ladies. But yeah, you continue.
Yeah, but when it was happening, probably not. I mean, not much to say. When I was in Jerusalem, me and Alex went to like night markets, and we stumbled upon one of the battalions that were going into Gaza. Basically, the day after, so they were celebrating beforehand. It was great fun, and as I've said, anybody working for the IDF is a hero. They are defending the one and only free state in the Middle East and deserve support. They don't deserve to be hunted around Europe as many organizations are trying to do. They do not deserve sanctions to be put on them for again defending a free nation.
Well, people like Matthew Cassell absolutely deserve the reality show treatment that he just got, and he did a series of videos there. I haven't watched the others, but maybe we'll talk about him again tomorrow on the reality show. I believe we're planning to talk about a uh, Islamist, Muslim, jihadist, whatever you want to call him, who basically thanks the so-called woke right, thanks the Tucker Carlsons and Candace Owens, talks about how the Muslims are infiltrating the right and how the tide against the Jews has turned against the Jews because of the work these Muslims are doing. Yeah, that is the topic of tomorrow's episode of the reality show. Unless something comes up, that's always a caveat we need to add here on this channel. Thank you, Eyal. Thank you, Daniel. Eyal, where can people find you?
So I'm an associate of the Ayn Rand Center Israel. They're doing a great job in Israel promoting objectivism. If you're interested, please visit aynrand.org.il/about. I'm also the writer of a book, Victory Now. It is about to release soon, and we're planning to go on with a whole movement to promote the ideas and make a change in Israel. The book is about a plan for Israel's victory and the moral case for it. You can visit www.victory.now if you're interested. Thank you.
Daniel, where can people find you?
You can find me on my YouTube channel, Damned Dan. As I've mentioned a couple of times, I might be covering the upcoming Czech election, so people should subscribe that. It's going to be a fun election since communists are running again and might end up in government. And this is not like a libel when like people call the Democratic Party the communist. No, we mean actually the Communist Party of Czechia and Bohemia are running and might actually be pretty high in the numbers.
Communists might also be running away from Irvine at the end of the month because the Irreplaceable Spark conference will bring people who have achieved greatness in the not fully free market, but as free enough at least for them to have succeeded in business, in the real world. People who, like Jonathan Hoenig, for example, who is in mainstream media despite his views. Matthew Cassell, who is also in mainstream media, will not be speaking at the conference, but many, many other interesting, successful people will be. This is a first of its kind conference, so make sure you sign up. Objectivism.co.uk. That is the link is in the chat. That is where you get the tickets, and we hope to see you there, and we hope to see you back here tomorrow. Thanks, Eyal. Thanks, Daniel. And thanks everybody for watching.